Hello and welcome to Fintech Focus TV with me, Toby Babb, and delighted to be joined today with Paul from Previse. How are you?
Morning, Toby. Very well.
Great to see you.
How are
Thanks
you?
ever so much for coming in.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Listen, huge congratulations. You made the list of the most influential fintechs of 2019. You've got a great company and massively exciting times. The judges have picked a hell of a list in this. You're in fine company, and it's really exciting what you're doing. Tell us a little bit more about the company and the background.
Sure. And we're excited, so thanks for having us on the list. Thanks for having us in. What we're doing is really pretty a fundamental and profound change to the way commerce works. And that sounds ambitious. It is ambitious. It means what we're doing is very, very hard. So to get recognition like this of what we're doing is pretty exciting. The best way to describe it is, imagine when you bought your coffee this morning, Toby. You went into Starbucks, you paid £3 for a flat white, you got your flat white. That's how B2C commerce works. A simultaneous exchange of value, £3 versus a coffee. In B2B, the equivalent would have been, you said, thanks for the coffee, send me an invoice, I'll pay you in 60 days. And if you think about that, you've done two things which are incredibly inefficient. One is you've put in place a whole bunch of process. Starbucks now has to generate an invoice, send to Toby for £3, print that out, get that to you somehow. You need to get it in your systems, approve it, check it, and send money. So there's all this process that's been put around it. And secondly, you've embedded a financing transaction with that sale and purchase transaction. Starbucks has sold you a coffee, and they've given you 60 days of credit. And that bundling of a financing transaction is incredibly inefficient. Are they the right party to be providing you with finance? And yet, this is the way that B2B commerce works. Yeah. Everywhere in the world. There's $125 trillion of B2B commerce all around the world that works like that. So what Previse is doing is really to fix that and to make B2B commerce just like B2C. Yeah. And that sort of, I think, theme runs through some of the companies who've made this list. If you're looking at real world problems, and you're taking a big problem there, or a big issue, and providing a big solution to it. Right? Yep. The companies in here who are, I guess, the common threads through them are great founding team, a talented team behind it, but solving big issues and genuine issues that people have, and providing solid tech off the back of it. I think you can probably tick a lot of those boxes. Your background on its own is stellar in some of the things that you've done in your career to date. Tell us a little bit about why you think the judges have picked you and the company specifically. Yeah, good question. I mean, I think, Toby, you hit on some of the answers, which is a really big problem for a real use case. To us, I mean, that's what we're excited about. And particularly in the machine learning space, there's a lot of machine learning around. People talk about it. There's a lot of awareness that this is really going to change our lives. But the bulk of the focus is on the sort of sexy front end things like autonomous cars. Whereas we think, the real value that can be that is going to be delivered in a much shorter time frame is in much more mundane, basic business processes, and that's what we're doing. Applying, some really good machine learning to these very valuable large data sets that sit within every large corporate in the world, to make a process much more efficient for everyone. And so the big corporates and the small suppliers and the banks who fund it, they all win. So I think that this choice is a strong recognition of that, applying some great technology to a real world use case, and that can make a huge difference very, very quickly. And you've mentioned some interesting things there. I think I mentioned it earlier on to you, that the company effectively deals in some of the most spoken about and sought after technology in the world at the moment.
I mean, it's a who's who of the tech, which is making a difference to the world right now, right? Tell us a little bit about what you think's happening in the tech space that's particularly exciting for 2019.
I guess I come back to the same theme of actually seeing real-world use cases. You know, take blockchain, which is the the buzzword of the last couple of years. There's been so much hype about it, and yet it's only really now, I guess, 3 years into the hype, that we're starting to see some really practical use cases. For the area that we're in, machine learning, I think it's quite similar. I mean, obviously there've been quite a lot of machine learning use cases around for the last few years, but it's really only been the last 3 to 5 years that a lot of that technology has been adopted and become much more accessible. So for 2019, it's quite similar. I see that the flourishing of actual use cases using the tech is great. And I think we're also seeing, and this is particularly related to London, we're seeing, you know, there's this huge focus on fintech. I'm a bit of an old dog in this space. I've been in fintech for 20 years, since well before it was called fintech. But this next wave, at least in London, we're starting to see a whole bunch of fantastic fintechs really start to get to scale. You know, Revolut, Monzo, Go Cardless, TransferWise, iWalker. I'm sure I've Oak North, Starling. You know, there's about a dozen that just in the last 3 months, most of them on your list, that are now becoming household names.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's happened relatively overnight. The fact that they've become a household name, these guys have been working at it for many, many years. So I think being part of this fintech ecosystem in London, especially right now, is really, really exciting. And for 2019, yeah, I just see more of that happening. So it's a super exciting time to be here.
And your sort of market there in that changing the B2B world, what sort of companies are you working with? What sort of industries are particularly relevant to you?
A whole host. So our clients, our potential clients are really the 5,000 biggest companies in the world. Every large corporate.
Not a bad place to start.
So it's a huge market. Every large company in the world spends a lot of money on third-party services, whether it's consulting services, buying milk, stationery, travel. Every large corporate spends a lot of money on that. And every large corporate does that extraordinarily inefficiently, which is where we come in. So it's any large corporate are our clients. We're starting in the UK. We've signed up 8 large corporates. 6 of them are based in the UK, one's in the US, one's in Australia. Across a bunch of different sectors, a large focus in retail, also in energy, in pharma, but any large corporate banks. Banks are large consumers of goods and services and have huge, long supply chains. The 4 big banks in the UK have between them, each somewhere between 50 and 100,000 SME suppliers. People don't think about that. That's a huge number. So our client base is very, very broad. Our go-to-market is very much with partners through channels. So we've signed and announced partnerships with Oracle, with PwC, with RBS NatWest, with Virtual Stock that provides a lot of the procurement services for the retail industry and for the NHS. So we've put in place those partnerships, so we're working with them. And we're working with all the banks in finance because it's the banks. We're a data analytics company. We provide these scores and risk assessments so that the banks can underwrite what we're doing. And we're working directly, RBS NatWest, we have a partnership there, but we're working with the majority of the banks here in the UK and also around the world to enable them to get their financing through to the SMEs.
And that sort of world you occupy, whilst spectacularly innovative, there's also competition in that sort of space. Why are people choosing you? Why is the company going so well, and why are you standing out?
Great question, and actually this is going to sound incredibly arrogant, Toby, but there actually isn't any competition. Okay. In the sense of there's a lot of competition, but there's no one doing what we're doing.
They're fragmented, yeah.
No one is doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
That won't last long, I hope, because if that lasts long, it means it wasn't a great idea. And we're very convinced this is an unbelievably good idea. And actually, we're starting to see competitors come after us. which is great because it's a massive market, and that's just a validation. In fact, some of the best players in the old school way of doing what we're doing are now adopting our approaches, or at least marketing that they can do our approaches. So that's a fantastic validation for us. But so your question, answer one is actually no one is doing what we're doing. But why would people choose our solution? Large corporates, there's a real realization now of how inefficient payment processes are, of the problem that late payments and slow payments cause, particularly in the UK. There's a huge political focus here around late payments.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Suffocating the SMEs. I mean, the statistics on the biggest problem, the biggest challenge an SME faces by far is cash flow. The biggest cause of cash flow strain for any SME that sells to large businesses, which is most of them, is slow payments from large corporates. So the biggest drain on every SME in this country, and it's widely recognized, the SMEs drive most of the growth and the job creation, is that they're paid so slowly by their corporate buyers. So why would someone choose us, was your question, to solve that problem? But because our clients are large corporates, that's not easy. It's a very hard sale because enterprise sales are always hard and long, but what we're doing is, it's relatively complicated. How a corporate pays its suppliers is core to its business. So there's ownership from that, from the CFO, the treasurer, the head of procurement, the head of accounts payable, the chairman and the CEO. We're going to have a view because corporate social responsibility is a really key theme which we help. So we've got this long, complicated sale with a wide constituents of senior management at very large organizations. Why would they choose us? Because they want to solve the problem and there's no one else, and they love our solution, which is fantastic. But it just takes time. That's the biggest danger and challenge in our business is the time it takes.
Which is the case in so many fintechs, and something I think which needs to change as it moves further forward.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, with all of that, look, you're doing something incredibly exciting, and it is an exciting business to look at. Now, how old is it now?
We're coming up for 3 years.
3 years. So still in that really scaling and growth sort of phase, and as I say, coming through some of the initial causes or issues of getting through that, some of those procurement processes and everything, and getting a name for yourself. It makes for a really exciting year at the moment, I should imagine, for you. Tell us a little bit about what's in store for the company.
For this year?
Yeah.
Well, the team is beavering away very, very hard. It's really about our first, I mentioned we've signed 8 very large clients. It's getting everything working for those 8 clients, making them really happy and thrilled that we've delivered on the promise. And their suppliers. Between those 8 companies, they have 500,000 SME suppliers that we will reach by the end of this year. Our service will be offered to. So this year is all about getting that first phase locked down. Everyone's super happy before we then look to really scale globally. So that's 2019 that the team's focused on. But then we're also putting in place the building blocks, both to expand geographically all around the world.
Do you see a starting point for that?
We haven't yet decided. And it's the usual, the US is such a huge market, same language, very similar legal system. That's an obvious place. And we've got some, we do have one very large US company that was signed. We've got another half dozen that we're talking to. Similarly in Europe and Asia. I spoke at a conference in Asia about 6 months ago, and it's all the things you expect, but to actually see it face to face, I actually had a conference call this morning with someone who runs the pharma division or one of the large pharma companies' Asian divisions in Shanghai, and just talking about the opportunities out there. The size of the opportunity is massive. We have some particular aspects that make Asia very compelling for us. Number one, payment terms there are very long. In the UK, the best, more progressive companies are on 30 days. 60 is probably more on average. There's no shortage of companies on 90 or 120. In Asia,
and it's if they pay in those things, which is precisely what we spoke.
Correct. In Asia, they tend to be longer. A lot of them start at 120 and go out. So payment terms are longer. Growth is much faster, much higher. So the small businesses, they need that cash flow to turn over. So their need for the cash flow is higher. And the differential in the funding rates of the large corporates and the small SMEs is also broader than it is in the developed world. So I didn't answer your question because we don't know yet. My gut is it'll be the US, then Europe, then Asia.
Yeah.
But we have great partners, firms like Oracle, firms like PwC. These are huge global firms that can help us scale globally very, very quickly. And because it's technology, this is all machine learning based, it's beautifully scalable.
Yeah, yeah.
The sales and distribution is not, and that's hard, and that's why we'll work with those partners. And the banks we're talking to a set of banks in the US and in Asia and in Europe, to see if we can replicate, we will replicate the kind of model we've got with RBS NatWest in the UK, where they will help distribute our product to their client base. We'll put in place similar partnerships with banks in the other regions.
So it's really providing that world-class service to your current bunch of clients, to extend that out, and then to look to see how you scale and globalize, being the sort of core plan for the year.
Exactly, and one of my big challenges leading the company, because I've got such a the danger of, everyone says you should hire smart creative people. The danger of hiring a bunch of smart creative people is they want to do smart creative things.
Yeah.
So the number of new ideas for new products and extensions, is just constantly bubbling up. And so one of the hardest part of my job is actually just keeping the guys focused on what we're currently doing.
Yeah. Because
there's already 50 ideas that we could leverage our capabilities, our machine learning, our data into all kinds of other areas. The opportunities are limitless. The hours in the day aren't. So we need to keep focused. But there are, in addition to the geographic expansion, there's a lot of product expansion we can do as well.
It's very interesting. We launched the magazine with a meetup of our FinTech influencers group, and we had a panel, and one of the things the panel was talking about was the importance of focus and how easy it is to maintain that, or how important it is to maintain that focus on when you're great at. So it sounds like you're on the right path for it as well.
It's hard. We'll have a conversation in 12 months and see if we've managed to...
I'm looking forward to that for the 2020 listing. Listen, it's been great talking to you. Thanks so much for coming on to the show, and well done on the listing. And we shall see you very, very soon.
Brilliant. Thanks, Toby.
Thanks.
Cheers.
So much.
Bye.
Thank you very much. And thanks to all of you for watching. We'll see you soon on another episode of FinTech Focus TV.